The alarm screamed across every human station from Earth to the Outer Rim colonies. Admiral stood on the bridge of the HSS Defender, his face calm despite the chaos around him. On the main, 300 alien warships hung in the darkness of space like predators waiting to strike. Each ship was massive, bigger than any human city, and they had appeared without warning. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said the communications officer. Her hands shook as she worked her console. "Put it through," ordered. The screen flickered. A voice came through, cold and mechanical, translated by their systems into perfect human language. "This is the Draconian Empire. You have entered our territory. Surrender your worlds or be destroyed. You have 72 hours to comply." The message repeated 3 times, then silence. Looked at his crew. Young faces stared back at him, waiting for orders. He had commanded fleets for 20 years, fought pirates and rebels, but never anything like this. No one in human history had faced an alien invasion. "Get me the Defense Council, now," he said quietly. Across human space, panic spread like wildfire. On the colony world of Nu, families rushed to evacuation shuttles. Parents carried children, the elderly helped each other, everyone moving as fast as they could. The Draconian fleet had appeared right at the edge of their system. They had maybe days before those ships arrived. Captain watched the evacuation from his destroyer, the HSS Indomitable. His ship was small compared to the alien vessels, but it was fast and well-armed. He had 60 crew members, all volunteers who refused to run. "Captain, we have our orders," his first officer reported. "Admiral wants us to form defensive positions around the colony transports." "Good," said. "If those monsters come for the civilians, they'll have to go through us first." On Earth, in the underground command center deep beneath Geneva, the Unified Defense Council met in emergency session. Holographic images of leaders from every human nation and colony filled the room. Everyone was talking at once, arguing, shouting. Fear made people angry. "We should negotiate," one leader demanded. "Negotiate what? Our surrender," another shot back. "We need time to evacuate the frontier worlds." "Time? They gave us 72 hours. Admiral appeared on the main display, his image broadcast from his flagship. "Listen to me," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. Everyone fell silent. "These aliens think we're weak. They think we'll panic and give up. Maybe they're right about the panic, but they're wrong about everything else." "What are you suggesting?" asked the council president. "We fight," said simply. "Not the way they expect. We're not going to line up our ships and let them blow us apart. We're going to make them chase us, wear them down, hit them where it hurts. Buy time for the civilians to escape and for us to figure out what we're really dealing with." "That's suicide," someone protested. "Maybe," agreed, "but it's better than doing nothing." Meanwhile, at First Contact Station Prometheus, Doctor worked frantically in her lab. As humanity's chief expert on alien languages, she had spent her career hopping for peaceful first contact. This was not what she had imagined. "There has to be something," she muttered, replaying the Draconian message for the 100th time. She analyzed every sound, every frequency, looking for clues about these aliens. What did they want? Why had they chosen humanity? Were they truly just conquerors, or was there something else? Her assistant brought her coffee. "Doctor, you should rest." "I can't," said. "I need to understand them. If I can find the right words, maybe I can talk to them. Maybe I can stop this war before it starts." But when she tried sending messages to the Draconian fleet, only silence came back. They weren't interested in talking. The 72 hours passed like a nightmare. Human fleets gathered at strategic points, ready to fight. Millions of civilians fled the frontier colonies, packed into transport ships heading for the inner systems. Earth's military factories worked around the clock, building weapons and ammunition. On the Defender's bridge, watched the countdown reach 0. "All ships battle stations," he ordered. "This is it." The Draconian fleet began to move. Their ships glided forward, weapons charging with energy that made space itself shimmer. They moved in perfect formation, confident and unstoppable. Saw them coming toward New. The last transport ships were still leaving the planet's atmosphere. "Hold your positions," he told his crew. "Don't fire until I give the order." The alien ships grew larger on his screens. He could see them clearly now, strange designs that looked both beautiful and terrifying. Weapons ports opened along their hulls, glowing with deadly power. "Captain, they're targeting us," his weapons officer reported. "Steady," said. His heart pounded, but his voice stayed calm. "Wait for it." The Draconian flagship fired. A beam of pure energy lanced through space toward the Indomitable. At the last second, gave the order. Evasive maneuvers. All ships scatter and attack. The human ships broke formation, moving in unpredictable patterns. The Draconian weapons missed, striking empty space. Human missiles launched in response, dozens of them, targeting the enemy fleet's support vessels. The battle had begun. Back on Earth, watched the first combat reports with growing horror. Human ships were dying, but they were also fighting back in ways the Draconians didn't expect. The aliens had expected either surrender or a traditional space battle. Instead, the humans were everywhere at once, refusing to engage directly, hitting and running like wolves against a bear. "They're confused," said aloud, watching the tactical display. "Look at their formations. They don't know how to respond to guerrilla tactics." Her assistant looked at her strangely. "That's good, right?" "Maybe," said, "or maybe it just makes them angry." Saw it too from his command center. The Draconians were powerful, but they were predictable. They expected their enemies to fight with honor, in neat formations. Humans had learned centuries ago that survival mattered more than honor. "All fleets continue hit-and-run attacks," he ordered. "Target their supply lines, their communications arrays, anything that's not a capital ship. Make them waste their ammunition on ghosts." For 3 days, the battle raged across multiple systems. Humans lost ships, but the Draconians bled too. More importantly, the civilian evacuations continued. Every hour humanity held out meant thousands more lives saved. Then on the 4th day, something strange happened. Was monitoring Draconian communications when she noticed it first. "Sir, enemy transmissions are becoming irregular. Some ships aren't responding to their flagship's commands." "What do you mean?" asked. "I mean, I think something's wrong with them." Saw it too. A Draconian destroyer that had been pursuing his ship suddenly stopped. It just hung there in space, motionless. He waited for a trap, but nothing happened. The alien ship simply drifted. "Sir, should we fire?" his weapons officer asked. "No," said slowly. "Something's not right. Get me a scan of that ship." The scans showed the destroyer was still operational. Power was flowing, shields were up, weapons were armed, but there was no crew activity, no movement, no life signs. "That's impossible," his science officer said. "There should be 3,000 Draconians on that ship." Stared at the alien vessel. A cold feeling crept down his spine. Where did they go? Admiral stared at the reports coming from across the battle zone. It made no sense. In the past 12 hours, 17 Draconian ships had gone silent. Not destroyed, not damaged, just empty. His tactical officers had no explanation. "Send commander," ordered. "I want boarding teams on those ships. I need to know what's happening." Commander led the Special Operations Division. He was a quiet man who had served in the most dangerous missions humanity had ever attempted. He listened to his orders without expression, then assembled his best team. "Gear up," he told them. "We're going into an alien warship. We don't know what we'll find. Could be a trap, could be a plague, could be something we've never seen before. Stay sharp." The boarding shuttle approached the drifting Draconian destroyer carefully. The alien ship's weapons were still active, but nothing fired at them. felt sweat running down his back despite his training. This felt wrong. They cut through the hull and entered the ship. The interior was enormous, built for creatures much larger than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing with faint light. The air was breathable but smelled like copper and something else they couldn't identify. "Spread out," ordered. "Teams of 2, report everything you see." They moved through corridors that should have been filled with enemy soldiers. Instead, they found nothing. Empty rooms, abandoned stations, consoles still displaying alien text that their translators couldn't read yet. Personal items were scattered around, as if the crew had simply walked away mid-task. "Commander, you need to see this," one of his soldiers called. Found her in what looked like the ship's bridge. Command chairs sat empty. Screens showed tactical displays that were still active, tracking the human fleet's movements. And on the floor there were stains, dark marks that their scanners identified as Draconian DNA. "Where are the bodies?" his soldier asked. That was the question. There should be thousands of aliens on this ship, but all they found were these stains, these traces of DNA, as if the crew had melted into puddles and then evaporated. While explored the ghost ship, a civilian cargo pilot named was trying to survive. She had been hauling supplies to the frontier colonies when the invasion started. Now she was alone in her small ship, hiding among asteroids, hoping the Draconians wouldn't notice her. She watched through her scanners as the massive alien fleet moved through space. Most of the ships were still active, still hunting human vessels, but some were beginning to drift. She counted 4, then 7, then 12 ships that had stopped moving. Was about to call for help when she saw something that made her freeze. 2 Draconian cruisers were approaching each other. At first, she thought they were forming up, getting into formation. Then they collided. The impact was massive. 2 enormous warships crashed together, their shields flaring, metal tearing. Explosions rippled across their hulls. Neither ship had tried to avoid the collision. It was as if they didn't see each other. "What is happening?" whispered. She wasn't the only one asking. Across human space, military observers were reporting increasingly bizarre behavior from the Draconian fleet. Ships firing on their own allies, vessels spinning in circles. One battleship had charged its main weapon and then just sat there, the energy building and building until the weapon overloaded and destroyed itself. Doctor was a physicist who specialized in quantum communications. He had been brought to the Defender to help analyze the alien technology. But what he was seeing in the sensor data made no sense according to any physics he knew. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum signatures coming from the Draconian ships," he reported. "But they're not from any technology. They're biological in origin." "What does that mean?" asked. "I don't know yet, but these signatures are getting stronger, and they're resonating with something." He paused, checking his readings again. "They're resonating with us, with humans." Felt a chill. Explain. Human brain activity generates quantum patterns. It's a known phenomenon, but usually too weak to detect. But when you have millions of humans in a small area of space, all afraid, all focused on survival, the combined quantum signature becomes massive. "Are you saying we're doing this to them?" asked quietly. "I'm saying there might be a connection. I need more data." Doctor had been trying to decode the Draconian language since the invasion began. Finally, her computers had enough data to attempt a translation. She started with the ship logs that team had recovered from the ghost ships. What she read made her blood run cold. The logs showed normal operations at first. The Draconian crew had been confident, even bored. They had expected humanity to surrender quickly. Then, about 4 days into the invasion, the entries changed. "Strange thoughts," one log read. "Not my own, coming from everywhere." "The prey is inside my head," another stated. "How did they get inside?" "The silent ones are here. The legends were true. These are not prey. These are predators." The final entries were just screaming, alien words that their translators struggled with but understood the emotion, pure terror. She called Admiral immediately. "Sir, I've translated their logs. They were afraid of us. They called us predators." "That's ridiculous," said. "They invaded us." "I know, but something changed. Something made them terrified, and then they just disappeared." Received orders to investigate another ghost ship, this time a Draconian battleship. He took the indomitable clothes, weapons ready. The massive alien vessel drifted silently, its hull from combat but still intact. "Sir, I'm reading power fluctuations," his science officer reported. "The ship's computer is still running. Life support is active, but there are zero life signs." "Same as the others," muttered. He looked at his crew. "I'm going over there myself. I need to see this with my own eyes." His officers protested, but he insisted. An hour later, he stood on the bridge of the alien battleship with a small team. Everything was pristine, undamaged. Chairs still warm as if the crew had just left. But there were those stains again, dark marks on the floor and walls. DNA traces without bodies. Found the captain's log still recording. His translator worked on the alien text while he explored. In the captain's quarters, he found something that made him stop. A picture, or what looked like one. It showed Draconian children, their scales bright and colorful. A family. "Captain, the log translation is ready," one of his team said. Listen to the alien captain's final words. The voice was deep and afraid. "They are inside us. The humans, they are not what we thought. We came to conquer prey, but we found something else. Something that lives in the spaces between thoughts. It's eating us from the inside. I can feel my crew disappearing. I can feel myself disappearing. If anyone finds this ship, stay away from human space. Stay away from the void spawn. Stay away from." The log ended. Stood in the silent ship and felt fear he had never known. What were humans? What had they done? Back on the Defender, monitored all Draconian communications. In the past hour, 90% of the enemy fleet had gone silent. Only a few dozen ships still responded to commands, and those were beginning to fail too. "Sir, the entire invasion force is collapsing," she reported to Admiral. "We're not even fighting them anymore. They're just dying." "Not dying," Doctor corrected. "Vanishing, there's a difference." He showed his latest data. The quantum signatures from the Draconian ships are dropping to zero, but the human quantum field is growing stronger. It's like we're erasing them. "That's impossible," said. "We don't have any weapon that can do this." "No weapon," agreed. "But what if it's not a weapon? What if it's us? What if humanity evolved something, some kind of defense mechanism that activates when we're threatened?" The bridge went quiet. Everyone stared at the physicist. "You're saying humans are doing this unconsciously?" asked. "It would explain everything. The Draconians invaded and humanity's collective consciousness responded. Every human, billions of us, all thinking the same thing, survive. That quantum energy had to go somewhere. It went into the enemy." "And did what to them?" Doctor looked at where hundreds of empty alien ships drifted. Something worse than death. 2 days after the last Draconian ship went silent, Commander stood in the briefing room with Admiral and the scientific team. Holographic images of empty alien vessels rotated slowly above the table. 300 ships, 300 floating tombs. "We've boarded 47 vessels," reported. "Every single one is the same. No crew, no bodies, just DNA traces. The ships are completely functional. Some still have meals half-eaten in their galleys. Some have weapons charged and ready to fire. But there's nobody there." "It's like they were erased," said the who had accompanied the boarding teams. She pulled up her findings. "I've analyzed the DNA traces we found. They're definitely Draconian, but they're degraded in a way I've never seen. It's like the molecular bonds just gave up. But that's not possible without extreme heat or radiation, and there are no signs of either." Doctor added his data to the display. I've mapped the quantum signatures from all affected ships. The pattern is identical. First, the draconian biological signatures begin to fluctuate. Then they spike. Then they drop to zero. The whole process takes between 3 and 7 minutes. What causes the spike? Asked. Terror, said simply. I compared the quantum patterns to known data from humans experiencing extreme fear. The match is exact. Whatever happened to these aliens, they were absolutely terrified before they vanished. Brought up the ship logs. I've been working with Doctor on translations. The Draconians kept detailed records. In the final hours, they were experiencing what they called invasion of the mind. They reported hearing thoughts that weren't their own, seeing things that weren't there. One captain wrote that she could feel the presence of billions of minds pressing against her consciousness. Billions, repeated, human minds. That's what we think, confirmed. The draconian nervous system operates on quantum principles, much more so than human brains. When they encountered the collective quantum field generated by humanity, their minds couldn't handle it. The field literally overwhelmed their consciousness. The engineering specialist had been analyzing the alien technology. He raised his hand. Sir, I found something else. The draconian computers have extensive files on other species. They've conquered hundreds of worlds, but every species they fought had individual consciousness, separate and distinct. Humans are different. He pulled up a file. This is from the Draconian Fleet Archives. It's a warning marked as a myth. It talks about void-spawned species that hunt as one mind. The Draconians thought it was just a scary story to tell their children, but we fit the description. We're not a hive mind, protested. Not consciously, said, but on a quantum level when threatened, humans link together, not in thoughts or words but in survival instinct. Every human alive was afraid of the Draconians. Every human wanted them gone. That collective desire became a weapon. The room fell silent. Nobody wanted to say what they were all thinking. Humans had committed genocide without even knowing it. The civilian pilot had been rescued by a human patrol. Now she sat in a debriefing room telling her story to military intelligence. I watched 2 of their cruisers crash into each other, she said. It wasn't an accident. I checked the recordings. The ship's autopilots were still working. The collision avoidance systems were active, but they crashed anyway like nobody was controlling them. Because nobody was, the intelligence officer said. The crews were already gone. Shuddered, what are we? It was the question everyone was asking. Doctor had spent 3 days without sleep, reading through draconian logs, trying to understand. The aliens had been confident at first. They had seen humanity's technology and found it primitive. They had calculated the military strength and found it weak, but they had missed something crucial. They didn't understand collective consciousness, she explained to the emergency council. The Draconians were individuals, strong individuals but separate. Humans appear separate too, but we're connected in ways we don't understand. When one human screams, somehow all humans hear it. That's poetry, not science, one council member objected. Is it? Pulled up brain scan data. This is from volunteers on Earth during the invasion. When people learned about the draconian threat, their brain activity began to synchronize. Not perfectly, but enough. Millions of brains, all generating the same patterns of fear and determination. That energy had to go somewhere. It went into the Draconians, said quietly, and destroyed them. The political implications were staggering. Earth's government didn't know whether to celebrate or mourn. They had won the war without firing enough shots to matter. But they had also discovered that humanity was something strange and dangerous. Captain visited one of the ghost ships again, this time the Draconian flagship. It was the largest vessel in their fleet, capable of destroying planets. Now it drifted, lifeless and haunted. He walked through the corridors with a new understanding. These aliens had come to kill humans. They had threatened Earth itself. But they had been people too, with families and fears and hopes. And now they were gone, not just dead but erased, scattered across dimensions that humans barely understood. In the flagship's command center, he found the fleet commander's personal quarters. The alien leader had kept journals, written in flowing script that the translators now recognized. Read the final entry. I understand now. We were not hunting prey. We were prey and we walked into the predator's den. The humans do not know what they are. That makes them more dangerous, not less. They kill without weapons, without thought, without mercy. We came to exterminate them, but they are the exterminators. If anyone finds this record, flee from human space. Flee from the silent ones. They will not chase you. They will not hunt you. But if you threaten them, you will simply cease to exist. Stood in the empty room and felt sick. Long-range sensors picked up a new signal. Admiral was reviewing casualty reports when burst into his office. Sir, we have incoming ships, not Draconian. It's a multi-species fleet. They're broadcasting diplomatic codes. Who are they? Asked. They call themselves the Galactic Coalition. 37 different species. Sir, they're responding to the Draconian fleet's last transmission. Felt his stomach drop. What transmission? Before the flagship went silent, they sent out a distress call. It was automatic, standard procedure for their military. The coalition has been allies with the Draconians for centuries. How long until they arrive? 2 days, maybe 3. Stood and looked out at the stars. The empty Draconian ships hung in space like monuments. Monuments to human power. Monuments to human horror. Get me Doctor and the rest of the science team. We need to understand exactly what we did before the coalition arrives, and we need to figure out how to explain it. Doctor worked frantically, trying to understand the quantum phenomenon that had saved humanity. His simulations showed that the effect was triggered by existential threat. When humans believed their species was in danger, their minds linked together in defense. It wasn't magic. It was evolution, a survival trait developed over millions of years. But it was also indiscriminate. The quantum field didn't distinguish between hostile aliens and friendly ones. It didn't care about diplomacy or innocence. It only cared about proximity to the threat. Admiral, we have a problem, said. If the coalition comes here hostile, if they threaten humanity like the Draconians did, the same thing will happen to them. Can we control it? Asked. I don't know, it's unconscious. Billions of people would need to not feel threatened. How do you control that? Had been analyzing Draconian biology more deeply. She discovered something that made the horror complete. The quantum field didn't just kill them, she reported. It unraveled their consciousness at the fundamental level. They didn't die and move on to whatever afterlife they believed in. They just stopped existing. Every thought, every memory, every piece of what made them individuals was scattered across quantum dimensions. You mean they felt themselves being erased? Asked. For several minutes, yes. The logs confirm it. They experienced something beyond death, something that no species should ever experience. Ambassador arrived on the Defender. She was Earth's representative to alien species, though she had never actually met any aliens. Until now, humanity had been alone in the galaxy. Now they had made first contact by accidentally destroying an entire invasion fleet. What do I tell them? She asked. The coalition will demand answers. They'll want to know what weapon we used. How do I explain that we didn't use any weapon, that we didn't even know what we were doing? Tell them the truth, said. That's all we can do. The truth is that humanity is a species-level threat to anyone who attacks us. The truth is that we're dangerous in ways we don't understand. That truth might start another war. The coalition fleet arrived at the edge of human space. 30 ships from different species, all advanced, all powerful. They sent a message. We come seeking answers about the Draconian fleet. By order of the Galactic Coalition, you will provide full access to your systems and full disclosure of all weapons research. You have 24 hours to comply. Ambassador stood before the holographic projections of the Galactic Coalition representatives. 37 species, each more alien than anything humans had imagined. Some had multiple eyes, others had tentacles or wings. One species appeared to be made of living crystal, but all of them looked at her with the same expression: fear. "We demand to know what happened to the Draconian fleet," said the Coalition speaker, a being called Vex from a species that resembled giant mantises. "They came to human space and vanished. All contact was lost. 300 ships, gone. Took a breath. They attacked us. We defended ourselves." "With what weapon?" Vex demanded. "We have analyzed the Draconian vessels. There is no physical damage consistent with any weapon we know. No radiation, no explosive residue, no energy signatures. Yet the crews are gone. Explain this." "We're still trying to understand it ourselves," said honestly. "We didn't build a weapon. We didn't even know this was possible. But when the Draconians threatened humanity, something happened. Something unconscious." The Coalition representatives began talking among themselves in dozens of languages. The translator system struggled to keep up. Finally, Vex spoke again. "Are you claiming this was an accident?" "Yes," said, "an accident of evolution. Humanity apparently has a defense mechanism that activates when we face extinction. We didn't choose to use it. We didn't even know it existed." One of the Coalition members, a being that looked like flowing water held in a containment suit, spoke up. "The Draconians were not the first to disappear near human space. 20 years ago, a science expedition vanished in your region. 30 years before that, a trading fleet. We thought it was natural phenomena, but it was you. Felt sick. How many aliens had humanity killed without knowing?" Doctor presented his findings to the Coalition's scientific delegation. They listened in silence as he explained quantum consciousness fields, collective unconscious response, and the evolutionary trigger that made humanity dangerous to attackers. "This is unprecedented," said one alien scientist. "No species has ever developed such a defense. It violates the principle of individual consciousness." "Humans are individuals," protested. "We have separate minds, separate wills, but under extreme threat something connects us. We become one predator with billions of teeth." The alien scientists conferred. "If this is true, then humanity is the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because of your technology, but because of what you are. Any species that attacks you will cease to exist." "Only if they attack," emphasized. "We're not aggressive. The field only activates in response to existential threats." "Can you prove that?" another scientist asked. "Can you guarantee you'll never see us as a threat?" "Couldn't answer that." Admiral met with the Coalition military commanders. They were professional, but he could see the fear in their movements. They kept their distance from him, as if proximity to a human might trigger the quantum field. "The Draconians were testing you," one commander admitted. "They believed humans would be easy to conquer. Your technology is primitive by our standards. Your military is small, but they didn't account for this." "Neither did we," said. "If we could control it, we would, but it's unconscious. It's like asking someone to control their heartbeat." "Then humanity must be quarantined," the commander stated. "Your space will be marked as forbidden territory. No species will be allowed to enter, and humans will not be allowed to leave. That's a death sentence for our colonies. We need trade, resources, contact with others. Would you prefer we treat you as hostile and eliminate the threat?" The words hung in the air. Understood. The Coalition was terrified. They had just lost their strongest military ally to an enemy that didn't even use weapons. Now they faced a choice: isolate humanity or destroy them. A military ethicist had been brought to advise on the moral implications. He presented his analysis to Earth's Council. "The Coalition has a valid fear. From their perspective, humanity is a weapon of mass destruction that can't be disarmed. Every human is potentially part of this quantum field. How do you negotiate with that? So what do we do? One council member asked. Agree to be prisoners in our own space. Or we find a way to control the field, said. Prove we can turn it off. Show them we can coexist peacefully. And if we can't? Looked around the room. Then we accept that humanity might be alone forever. Captain spoke with some of his crew members. They were celebrating the victory over the Draconians. To them, it was simple. The enemy attacked, humanity won. Why complicate it? Because we didn't just win, told them. We erased them from existence. Every Draconian in that fleet, every soldier, every pilot, every engineer. They're gone. Not dead, gone. There's a difference. They would have done the same to us, one crew member argued. Probably, agreed. But we have to be better than our enemies or we become the monsters everyone fears. Doctor completed her translation of the Draconian archives. What she found was disturbing. The Draconians had indeed been testing humanity, but not for conquest. They had been testing to see if the old myths were true. There are legends throughout the galaxy, she explained to the council. Stories of a species that hunts as one mind, that erases threats without violence. The stories call them Silent Ones or Void Spawn. Every species has some version of the tale. The Draconians thought it was myth. They came to human space to prove it was just primitive fear. They were wrong. You're saying humanity is a legend? Asked. We're the legend. We've been out here in our little corner of space, thinking we're alone. But other species have been watching us, avoiding us, telling scary stories about the apes who became gods of death. The revelation changed everything. Humanity wasn't just a new species joining the galactic community. They were the boogeyman that parents used to scare children. They were the monsters in the dark. Discovered something in the coalition communications. Some species wanted to study humans, others wanted to destroy them. But a few, the minority, were arguing for a different approach. These species are called the moderates, she reported. They believe humanity can be integrated safely. They're proposing protocols, rules for interaction. If we agree to certain restrictions and allow monitoring, they'll advocate for our inclusion in the coalition. What kind of restrictions? Asked. Controlled expansion, limited military forces, regular inspections of human space, and we would need to develop a way to suppress the quantum field in non-threatening situations. In other words, give up our sovereignty and our only defense, one council member said bitterly. Or prove we can be trusted, another countered. Doctor had been working non-stop on the quantum field problem. Finally, he had a breakthrough. I think I can build a dampener. It would suppress the quantum field in a localized area, wear it like a device, and your mind won't contribute to the collective consciousness. Would it work? Asked. In theory, but I'd need volunteers to test it. And if it works, every human would need to wear one when interacting with aliens. What if the device fails? What if there's a malfunction? Then the quantum field activates and the aliens die. Looked exhausted. There's no perfect solution. Every option has risks. The coalition gave humanity a deadline. 30 days to prove they could control the quantum field or accept permanent quarantine. If humanity refused both options, the coalition would consider them an existential threat and respond accordingly. Worked on weaponizing the dampener. It was possible, he discovered, to reverse the device. Instead of suppressing the quantum field, it could amplify and direct it, turn it into a weapon that could be aimed. We shouldn't do this, protested. If we turn our defense into an offensive weapon, we become exactly what they fear. But we'd also have leverage, argued. Right now we're at their mercy. If we can threaten them back, maybe they'll negotiate fairly. The debate raged through humanity's leadership. Some saw the weaponized dampener as insurance. Others saw it as a guarantee of war, sided with those against, but he understood both arguments. Ambassador spent her nights reading reports from the coalition. Species after species listed their concerns. The crystal beings were afraid their crystalline structure would shatter in the quantum field. The aquatic species worried their fluid consciousness would dissipate. Every species had nightmares about what humanity could do to them. "They're not evil," she told her staff. "They're just afraid, and fear makes people do terrible things." Commander proposed a different approach. "What if we're transparent? Let the coalition see everything. Open our military bases, our research facilities, even our cities. Show them we're not planning to attack anyone. Prove we want peace." "They might see that as weakness," someone objected. "Or they might see it as honesty," countered. "Right now they're imagining the worst. Let's show them the reality." The 30-day deadline was approaching. Humanity had to make a choice: accept quarantine and isolation, submit to coalition oversight and restrictions, or reject both and face the consequences. Each option had supporters and opponents. The debate consumed every level of government. And through it all, the ghost ships of the Draconian fleet drifted in space, silent witnesses to humanity's power and humanity's curse. The Emergency Council met for the final time. 28 days had passed since the coalition's ultimatum. In 2 days, humanity would have to give their answer. The chamber was filled with representatives from every human nation, colony, and station. For the first time in history, all of humanity had to speak with one voice. Admiral stood at the podium. "We've heard every argument," he said. "Isolation means safety but stagnation. We'd be alone, but we'd be ourselves. Submission means contact but control. We'd join the galaxy but as prisoners. And rejection means war, possibly extinction. None of these choices are good." "So what do we do?" asked a colony representative. "We choose a fourth option," said. "We negotiate our own terms." The council erupted in discussion. Some thought it was suicide. Others saw it as humanity's only real choice. After hours of debate, they voted. Humanity would present the coalition with a counter-proposal. Ambassador prepared for the most important speech of her life. She had worked with Doctor, Commander, and dozens of others to craft a proposal that might satisfy both human needs and coalition fears. The coalition assembly gathered in neutral space. 37 species watched as hologram appeared before them. She could feel billions of human eyes watching too. Everything depended on what she said next. "Honored members of the Galactic Coalition," she began. "We understand your fears. We share them. The discovery of humanity's quantum defense has frightened us as much as it frightens you. We didn't ask for this ability. We didn't want to be dangerous, but we are, and we must deal with that reality together." Vex, the coalition speaker, listened without expression. "You reject our terms." "We offer alternative terms," said. "The Terra Protocols. First, humanity will develop and deploy quantum dampeners in all diplomatic and trade situations. Doctor's device works. We've tested it. When humans wear these dampeners, we cannot contribute to the quantum field. We become safe to approach." "And if the devices fail?" asked one coalition member. "We accept full responsibility. We'll maintain the devices, allow inspections, and provide backups. Second, we propose a joint research station. Human and coalition scientists working together to understand the quantum phenomenon, not to weaponize it but to study it. Knowledge removes fear." The coalition members talked among themselves. Some seemed interested, others remained hostile. Continued. "Third, we accept restricted expansion for 50 years. We won't colonize new systems beyond our current borders. This gives the galaxy time to adapt to our presence. But we won't accept permanent quarantine. After 50 years, these restrictions end and will be." "50 years is nothing," Vex said. "Species plan in centuries." "Then us every 50 years, proposed. "Judge us by our actions, not your fears. We're willing to prove ourselves, but we won't accept eternal imprisonment for being what evolution made us." Captain led the first joint patrol, a test of the Terra protocols. His crew wore the quantum dampeners, small devices attached to their uniforms. With him flew ships from 3 coalition species. The aliens were nervous, but they came. "Human vessel Indomitable, this is the coalition ship Morning Star," came a transmission. "We're reading unusual quantum signatures from your ship." His heart raced. "The dampeners are active. Those signatures should be minimal." "They are minimal," the alien replied. "That's what's unusual. We've never seen humans without the quantum field before. You're actually individuals now." "We've always been individuals," said. "Not from our perspective. Until now, you've always appeared as one massive entity pretending to be separate. Now we can finally see you as you really are." It was a small moment, but it felt significant. For the first time, humans and aliens were truly seeing each other. Doctor worked at the Joint Research Station with alien scientists. The facility orbited between human and coalition space, a symbol of cooperation. The work was difficult. Human and alien minds approached problems differently, but slowly they made progress. "The quantum field isn't unique to humans," one alien scientist discovered. "All conscious species generate some quantum signature. Humans are just abnormally strong and abnormally synchronized." Y asked. "We think it's because of your evolutionary path. Humans evolved as social predators on a dangerous world. You needed to coordinate to survive. Over millions of years, your minds adapted to work together unconsciously. Most species evolved as individuals. You evolved as a pack that forgot it was a pack." The research explained much, but it also revealed something troubling. The quantum field couldn't be removed. It was fundamental to human consciousness. The dampeners could suppress it, but the ability would always be there, waiting for the next existential threat. Commander led the Transparency Initiative. He escorted coalition observers through human military bases, research facilities, and even major cities. The aliens saw everything: human weapons, human homes, human children playing in parks. "You're so vulnerable," one observer noted, watching human children. "Your young have no natural defenses. They can't fly, can't breathe underwater, can't survive in vacuum. How did you become so dangerous?" "Because we're vulnerable," replied. "We had to become dangerous to survive. Every human knows death can come at any moment, so we adapted to fight it together." Worked with coalition ethicists on a framework for human integration. The debates were intense. How do you define appropriate use of the quantum field? When does defense become aggression? Can collective unconscious action be judged by individual morality? "The problem," explained, "is that humanity can't be held responsible for unconscious actions. But the galaxy can't ignore those actions either. We need new ethics, new laws that account for what we are." The coalition deliberated for weeks. Some species voted for acceptance, others voted for rejection. A few abstained. The debate consumed galactic politics. Finally, the moderate faction, led by species who believed in giving humanity a chance, made their argument. The Draconians invaded human space and were destroyed, but they chose to invade. Humanity didn't hunt them. If we don't threaten humans, they won't threaten us. Fear is making us consider attacking a peaceful species. That would make us the aggressors. The argument swayed enough votes. By a narrow margin, the coalition accepted the Terra protocols. Ambassador received the news with tears in her eyes. Humanity would join the Galactic Coalition as provisional members. They would wear the dampeners. They would accept monitoring. They would prove themselves worthy of trust. But they wouldn't be alone anymore. Became one of the first civilian pilots licensed for coalition trade routes. She carried cargo between human and alien worlds, building bridges through simple commerce. It wasn't glamorous, but it was important. "How do they treat you?" people asked her. "With caution," she admitted. "They're polite, but they keep their distance. I wear the dampener, but they still see me as dangerous. Maybe there won't. Maybe it takes time. Captain stood on his bridge, looking at the empty Draconian ships that humanity had decided to leave as a memorial. The Coalition wanted them destroyed, removed, forgotten, but humanity insisted they remain. They're a reminder, said, for us and for the galaxy, a reminder of what can happen when fear turns to violence. The Draconians thought we were prey. They were wrong, but we could have been wrong too. We could have seen all aliens as enemies. These ships remind us to be better. Doctor ran the cultural exchange program, teaching humans about alien civilizations and aliens about humanity. It was slow work. Centuries of being alone couldn't be overcome in months, but every day brought small victories. An alien student laughing at a human joke, a human scientist collaborating with an alien colleague, understanding bit by bit. Admiral retired after the treaty was signed. He had done his duty. He had saved humanity from invasion and from itself. Now younger officers could navigate the complicated peace. On his last day, asked him, "Do you think it will last, the peace?" "I think it has to," said, "because the alternative is too terrible. The galaxy learned that threatening humanity means death, but humanity learned something too. We learned we're the monsters in other species' nightmares. We have to prove we're more than that." The Joint Research Station made a breakthrough. Doctor and his team discovered that the quantum field responded to more than just threat. It responded to all collective emotion. Fear made it deadly. But hope, determination, curiosity, these emotions generated quantum patterns too, positive patterns. "What if we've been looking at this wrong?" proposed. "What if the quantum field isn't just a weapon? What if it's a tool? What if humanity could learn to use it consciously for creation instead of destruction?" The possibilities were endless and terrifying, but they were also hope. 5 years after the Draconian invasion, the first human child was born on a coalition world. The parents wore dampeners. The alien doctors were nervous, but when the baby cried, every species in the hospital smiled. Life continued. 50 years after the invasion, humanity's expansion restrictions ended. The coalition them as promised. By then, human-alien cooperation was normal. Young aliens who had grown up knowing humans couldn't imagine the fear their ancestors had felt. Young humans studied the Draconian memorial and struggled to understand how lonely humanity had once been. The vote for full coalition membership passed unanimously. But the Draconian ships still drifted in space, and humanity kept them there. 300 empty vessels, monuments to the species that had invaded and vanished. Some called them a warning, some called them a tragedy, some called them both. Now an old woman and a coalition ambassador herself visited the memorial one last time. She stood before the flagship where she had heard those final screams. The ship was dark, silent, eternal. "We didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "We just wanted to survive. I hope you understand. I hope, wherever your consciousness ended up, that you found peace." The ship didn't answer. It never would. But somewhere in the quantum dimensions between here and nowhere, maybe the Draconians heard her. Maybe they understood. Maybe they forgave. Or maybe they were just gone, scattered across infinity. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't know its own strength. Humanity had learned to live with what they were. The galaxy had learned to live with humanity. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was better than the alternative. And in the end, that was enough. Long-range sensors detected another signal from deep space. A new species making contact, their message beginning. "We come in peace, and we know what you are." Humanity sent back a simple reply. "Then you know we also come in peace." The galaxy held its breath and waited.